Sandro. A special hello goes out to Director of Media for the Boston Bruins alumni, Mr. Mark Moran. Nice to see you, Marky.
Welcome to the Pro Hockey Alumni Podcast, the voice of hockey legends. This is the classic hockey show for classic hockey fans. We celebrate the history of the game with stories told by the select few who actually lived it. Get ready for an all-access pass to the heart of the hockey universe. Episode 45 of the Pro Hockey Alumni Podcast is a tribute to 7-year NHL pro Mike Christie, who passed away on July 11, 2019. Born in Big Spring, Texas, and raised in Calgary, Alberta, Mike was the first native Texan to play in the NHL, although it was strictly a technicality as his father was a Canadian citizen working for an American oil company, and Mike grew up in Canada. Before turning pro, Mike played for the University of Denver, becoming a first-team All-American in 1971, as well as being chosen to the U.S. Amateur National Team at the 1972 Ice Hockey World Championship. Mike then played 2 seasons with the Dallas Blackhawks of the Central League before signing with the NHL's California Golden Seals in 1974, where he played until the franchise moved to Cleveland in 1977, becoming the Cleveland Barons. Mike was captain of the NHL Colorado Rockies hockey team in the late 1970s, and his NHL career ended with the Vancouver Canucks in 1981. Mike settled in Colorado after his career ended and started a second career as a sales representative that allowed him to enjoy his other passion, golf. He represented several well-known brands including Callaway and Top Flight before retiring in 2010. Mike died of kidney disease on July 11, 2019. He was married to his wife of 47 years, Molly, and they had 2 daughters, Lisa and Colleen, and a son, Dan, as well as 4 grandchildren. In this episode, we hear tributes from 4 of Mike's teammates, former NHLers Mike Lampman, George Paysoot, Dave Gardner, and Paul Gardner. First up in our tribute to Mike Christie is Mike Lampman. Mike played at the University of Denver in the early 70s with Mike Christie. Mike went on, of course, to play in the National Hockey League with St. Louis, Vancouver, and the Washington Capitals.
Well, what's interesting about Mike and I and some of my other teammates, we were the last freshman class that couldn't play in the NCAA, which meant we were part of a freshman team at the university and couldn't play in the varsity games. And that was our freshman year, was the year that we won the national championship against Ken Dryden at the Broadmoor. So we were a pretty close-knit group, Mike included, and Mike was just an exceptionally talented player. Murray Armstrong, the coach, it was these were the old days, of course, when there's only one coach, and there wasn't too much that Murray could coach or teach Mike with his natural God-given ability. So he started basically our sophomore years were basically our freshman years. In other words, he and I started along with Ross Woodley and others, started our sophomore year playing full time. And Mike's junior year was his best year, his All-American year. So he really excelled in his junior year, and our collective junior and senior year, we went to the Final Four. So Mike had an exceptional junior year, and unfortunately hurt himself his senior year. So that translated to him being signed by Chicago as a free agent, pretty much going undrafted because of no track record his senior year. But boy, he was a major part of the team. He was clearly, quite frankly, our best defenseman. And he was one of the guys. What I liked about Mike is he was one of the guys and really showed up at all the team events, and he stayed for 4 years like I did, which is becoming very rare these days. As we know, but highly skilled, a good, personable guy, smart in the classroom. We all made it through in 4 years with a degree. And then, as I say, unfortunately, he hurt himself his senior year, but got drafted by Chicago, in large part, I think, because of the Keith Magnuson connection with DU, and Harry Ottenbright, while I don't know for sure, was Keith's agent, Magnuson's when he turned pro, and Cliff Coral. And I know he was mine until Harry passed away, but Harry was part of the, I think, reason why Chicago picked Mike up. And then Mike got traded to California Golden Seals and really reinvented his game, because Mike was, wasn't afraid to fight at any point in time. But in college, he wasn't known especially as a guy that would drop the gloves and get into a fight, and if it did happen, obviously he could have handled himself just fine. But he really, as I say, reinvented his game, where he was a pretty tough guy as a pro, and was one of the guys that, when the Flyers came into town, that, the Schultzes and Kellys and Seleskis had to deal with if it came to that.
George Peysout played 2 years alongside Mike Christie on defense with the California Seals, and he recalls Mike from those days in Oakland.
Well, I guess the best way to describe Mike, he was very well liked by all the guys. He wasn't a flashy player by any means, but he was very intelligent, got the job done, and he always had the guys back. As I think we just spoke about his incident in Philadelphia, when you go into the Bears den and you back your teammates up, that says a lot about you. I roomed with Mike quite often on the road, and I always found Mike to be a pretty. He was actually, I was one of the single guys, and he was one of the married guys. He was married to Molly back then, his wife, and naturally, a lot of the married guys like Al McAdam and different guys hung around together, and the single guys kind of did their thing. But I'd say Mike had a very good demeanor. He probably was, like we all are. We can be hard on ourselves at times, but I think he had a pretty good personality.
George remained in close contact with Mike in the latter years of his life in an effort to get the word out about Mike's situation and hopes that he could receive that kidney transplant.
I know in talking to Mike, it was pretty sad because the state of Colorado, he told me there was 1,800 people waiting for a kidney. It's just pretty incredible. Mike was stage 5, so I think he had as Molly, and I had a lot of contact with Lisa, his daughter, and because she was a lot, with social media, more up to speed of things. So she said it was under 20 or 15% kidney function. So without dialysis, he wouldn't be able to live. And I also know the longer you go, and I think Mike was probably 3.5 years or more into it, that, it becomes more difficult the longer you're in there. And that's how long he had been waiting for a kidney. So it's pretty, and I hate to say this, but I called, which you would think normally would help, is the NHL Alumni Association, whose new president is Glenn Healy, but I was a bit disappointed in that Glenn kind of didn't have the time of day to talk about it or do anything. And I go, well, what's the function of the alumni if you can't help, one of your fellow players?
10-year pro hockey veteran Dave Gardner was teammates with Mike for 2 seasons in Oakland and 2 more as a member of the Cleveland Barons.
Well, as a player, it took him a little bit to get orientated with NHL hockey. It was a little bit faster than college, and but he was able to adapt pretty quick. He was a bright guy, so he figured it out. And then again, the good part about Mike was the fact that he'd do anything you wanted him to do. He play left defense, right defense. He didn't care as long as he was out in the ice. So, and I think the one thing I'd have to add is that he cared about his teammates. So he always would be there in case anybody was in a little bit of trouble. So that was a great asset.
Dave Gardner's brother, also a 10-year pro, Paul Gardner, was teammates with Mike Christie as a member of the Colorado Rockies.
Yeah, Mike was always an upbeat guy. I certainly enjoyed being a teammate of his. On the ice, he was a very, very competitive guy, played hard, but did so with a smile. Like, he enjoyed playing, he enjoyed practice, and he liked to laugh and liked to pull practical jokes and things like that. So I certainly enjoyed him around the arena and got to know him a little bit away from the rink. He was a golfer, and I myself loved to play. So we spent some time on the golf course a little bit. Again, same way though, very competitive, wanted to win, and but enjoyed a laugh and a smile all the time. I think it was hard to see when Mike wasn't, an upbeat guy. And again, enjoyed him as a teammate and as a friend.
Mike Christie would eventually become the captain of the Colorado Rockies. And I asked Paul about Mike's leadership skills.
He stuck up for his teammates, more than once. If there was anything involved with pushing and shoving or fighting, which was a lot more in those days, he was right in with you as a teammate, or he was making sure that the whole team was sticking together. And so I saw the leadership qualities in him. He worked hard in practice, which I think most coaches want their captains to do. But he competed every game, no matter what the score. And at times in Colorado, it could get out of hand, being a younger group. And so I could certainly see where a coach would make him a captain, or certainly a leader of the hockey club.
Thanks for listening to our tribute to Mike Christie. Certainly the themes that resonated throughout his former teammates' comments were hard work, courage, and loyalty. They all agreed that Mike Christie was a stand-up guy that they were proud to call a teammate and a friend. Thank you for listening.